Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for the first college and career readiness all hands call. We have a packed house. We have a packed agenda. So we are going to be moving very swiftly through some of the items. Um, Also, thank you for submitting your questions in advance of the meeting. We have poured over the questions and we have some answers for you. Just an FYI, because we do have such a packed agenda this afternoon, we will not be taking live content questions. So I hope that everyone was able to submit their questions prior to the meeting. However, if you were not, please send those to us in an email after the meeting and we'll make sure to address it. Okay, next slide, please, Lee. So let me first start by introducing myself. My name is Arbany Cooper. It's good to see everyone again. I serve as the State Director of Adult Education for the North Carolina Community College System. We also have a special guest on the call with us this afternoon, Dr. Brian Merritt, who serves as our Senior Vice President and Chief Academic Officer. Dr. Merritt, would you like to say a word of hello to the field?
Sure, I can say hello. Hope everybody's doing well. I just wanted to hop on and say hello and be here for the conversation. I know our 58 colleges and our providers. You all are valued community partners, and you're serving communities all across our state, whether it's urban or rural, or your work is really the foundation to our state's workforce success. So we're just we recognize that this is a really challenging time. It's been challenging on us at the state level and on many of you at the local level, and we've heard from you and we're listening. That's for sure. So we'll continue to push towards that mission of meeting students where they are and try to answer many of the questions that you all have submitted today. And I know the team's been poring over many of the federal notices and many of the just ongoing noise that's really happening, federally and statewide. But transformation and dedication to our students. It just takes compassion. It takes resilience, and I think that that's something that I know our folks here at the state level have, but I know you all have that as well, and that's why we do the work that we do. So with that, I'm here. I'm listening. I'll chime in as I can. And Arbany, thanks for your leadership, and the whole team, thanks for your leadership, and look forward to the call.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barrett. So we are going to go over the agenda very quickly. So we are going to talk about the team restructure. We have some new folks on our team. Some of them you probably know. We're also going to talk about performance accountability as well. Jessica Rieger Dunnigan is going to lead that conversation. We want to provide an update on the NCCC AEA conference as well as upcoming meetings and webinars. Okay, next slide, Lee. Okay, so as you can see, we have a new federal programs team. So that would be the adult ed team as well as the CTE team. So we have combined as one team. Dr. Robert Van Dyke, he serves as our Associate Vice President for Federal Programs. We have also added the wonderful Doris McDougall. She is going to be serving as our Federal Programs Business Services Specialist. So all of those things related to contracts and specific needs, Doris handles that. Also, Doris Carver, she serves as our digital navigator manager. I know many of you know Doris from her time, not only working at the system office, but as well as her time at Piedmont Community College, serving as vice president of workforce development. The CCR team, we have made some changes to a few titles and a few duties. So again, you see myself, Arbany Cooper, I serve as the state director. Rebecca Lawley, she is serving, she had a slight title change. She went from assistant state director to associate state director for programs and partners. Jennifer Bean, she serves as our director of high school equivalency and assessments. Dr. Delonda Bond is now our director of instruction and special programs. Matthew Brown, he also had a slight change. He is now the Director of Career Pathways and English Language Acquisition. Monica Miller, she serves as our business systems analyst. We could not do any of this work without Monica handling those tickets with advances. Thank you, Monica. Carla Parnell, she serves as our grants administrator. And then Michael Tildesley serves as our director of adult high school and corrections. Also, we have a newly created monitoring and compliance unit, which serves and supports both CTE and adult ed. So, reintroducing Dr. Michael Tilley, all the way from Octay and now back home with us. He serves as our Associate State Director for Monitoring and Accountability. Brandy Brown will continue to serve as the monitoring and reporting specialist again for both CTE and adult ed. We've had a change with the professional development unit as well. Daniel Loges, he serves as our Director of Professional Development now for both CTE and adult ed. Lee Davidson, who is running the show this afternoon, she serves as the Professional Development and Distance Learning Specialist again for CTE and adult ed. Jessica Rieger has had a change in title and responsibility. She will also now be dually supporting CTE and adult ed. Her new title is Director of Systems and Performance Accountability. And then, of course, you know the Perkins team, Tony, Patty, and Stephanie. All right, next slide, please. So, if Jessica is on the call, she is going to talk just a bit about performance accountability. I know she is en route, doing some work on the road for us. So, Jessica, if you are able to take this slide, please do so. If not, I will.
Here. Thank you, Arbany. So just a quick update, as I'm sure all of you are well aware. Today is the deadline at 11:59 p.m. to get any data changes, additions, questions, edits, all that must be in and completed for the 24-25 program year by 11:59 p.m. today. We will pull the final 24-25 flat file, which is July 1 of 24 through June 30th of 25, first thing tomorrow morning. And so that will be it. We'll start processing the data to submit to our federal tables. But the wonderful news that we've seen in looking at the preliminary data for period 12 is that statewide we are on track to exceed the MSG target, which is 43.6% this year. Our rate is currently sitting at 49.5%. So that is fantastic. So that is reflective of all the great work you all do across the state with our students and their successes. Next slide. Okay. One thing that we are going to look at and focus on, and you'll get more information on this in the coming, probably by next week or so, we'll have some dates for training and additional information on this, but our state performance indicators, and that's our follow-up outcomes, those are being looked at more closely per a July Octay guidance memo that the state received. And effective for the 24-25 program year, Octay will be looking closely at each state's measurable skills gains, which, as in the previous slide we just showed, we are confident that we have exceeded those targets that were set for us by leaps and bounds. So we're happy about that. But they're also going to be evaluating second quarter after exit employment outcomes. So for this year, that would be students who exited in the 23-24 program year. They evaluate those students 6 months after they leave and then a year after they leave to see if they are employed. So our priority this year is going to heavily focus on supporting students in achieving more of these post-exit indicators. And as a state, we're going to work towards better capturing these. Right now, we only capture them through a data match. But again, more information will be forthcoming on these, hopefully towards the end of next week, as to how we're going to implement some survey practices and be better reflective of the follow-up outcomes that I don't think we're fully capturing for the state. Next slide. Albany?
Thank you, Jessica. I have two ways to mute my device, so it just takes me a minute to come off mute. So what we are going to do now, we are going to go into what we are calling our interactive question and answer segment of the meeting. And again, we are going to do our best to answer all of the questions that you sent to us prior to the meeting. So you will hear from myself as well as Jessica Rieger, Dr. Michael Tilley, as well as Dr. Delonda Bond. I am going to start it off by turning it over to Dr. Michael Tilley, as many of the questions were about the interpretive guidance. So, Michael, if you are ready to begin the questions, we will do so.
Thanks so much, Arbany. As Arbany, you mentioned, I've got 9 questions that relate to the recent federal notice that was released and the associated program memorandum that was released from the system office. I'm going to read the question that was sent to us verbatim and then share our responses. The first question is, with the reinterpretation of serving the migrant population forthcoming, I'm wondering if you have any indication of what documentation is needed from potential students to ensure that they meet the new interpretations. As indicated in the memo sent to providers on last Friday, 7/25, community colleges, providers, and CBOs may elect to conduct eligibility verification through 5 different methods. One is through the Department of Homeland Security system, systematic alien verification for entitlements, or the SAVE program, U.S. birth certificates, a review of real ID compliant IDs, DHS issued documentation verifying immigration status, or other methods to verify eligibility. And I'll talk about those other methods in a separate question. The next question is, who is responsible for the oversight of this information, meaning confirming the needed information has been verified? What will that level of oversight look like? At this time, the system office will not require subgrantees to report on these verification activities to WIO Title II staff. Providers will need to sign updated assurances attesting that they have the ability for citizenship verification of CCR students, should such verification be required in the future. No student verification records will be collected by the system office. Verification records will be retained in the program participant's official record. The next question is, I'm concerned that the notice of interpretation regarding the president's executive order reinforces the importance of the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996, that it will hinder our ability to serve many of the ESL students who come to our program for services. What advice can you offer on how programs should proceed? We will follow all federal statute and associated regulations from OCTAE, the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education. Regarding the enrollment of immigrant students, please refer to the memo outlining the acceptable forms of verification that programs may use during the enrollment process, should such verification be required. The next question is,
hey, Michael, sorry to interrupt, but just there's in chat, people are saying you're speaking a little bit too fast. So if it's okay, if you maybe slow down a bit when reading out the questions and answers, that'd be great. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. The next question, if we are required to verify students' immigration status in order to be funded, what are possible workarounds for organizations? Do we just not include those individuals in our reporting numbers? Are there any other possible workarounds? The answer to that is there would be no workarounds should such verification be required by statute or regulations. We will follow federal law and departmental regulations in offering the adult education programs across the state of North Carolina. The next question is, does the latest federal guidance require us to require documentation providing legal status or citizenship of all students going forward? Is a social security card sufficient? Would a state-issued ID be sufficient? And are we required to keep copies for everyone? The response to that, as indicated in the memo that was shared this past Friday, the Department of Education published an interpretive rule to clarify its position on classification of certain department programs providing federal public benefits. It's important to note that this interpretive rule is not a statute nor a regulation. The system office will not require subgrantees to report on the verification activities to WIO Title II staff at this time. Should such verification be required by statute or regulations, This would be a promising practice to review some of the verification documents. A social security card may suffice. Also, a state-issued real ID would be fine based on the latest interpretive guidance. At this time, programs are not required to keep copies of the documents. The next question is, with the reinterpretation of serving migrant populations forthcoming, I'm wondering if you have any indication of what documentation is needed from potential students to ensure they meet the new interpretations. I previously listed out those 5 methods that was listed in the Federal Register notice. We have had questions on what other methods to verify eligibility means. We did receive confirmation from the U.S. Department of Education that they have not yet enumerated what other methods to verify eligibility may be. An estimated time frame of when that could be provided was not able to be produced. The next question is also, who is responsible for the oversight of this information? We've answered that one. Local program directors and their staff would be responsible for oversight of collecting that information. Should that be required in the future, the system office will not require grantees to report on the verification activities at this time. The last question, second to last question that I have, can you please give us the correct process we are supposed to do to acknowledge the interpretive notice and confirm their ability to verify the eligibility of adult education students should such verification be required, and the timeline? At this time, the only requirement of local programs is to sign a revised federal assurances form acknowledging the interpretive notice and attesting the ability for citizenship verification of CCR students should such verification be required. The last question that I have before I'll turn it back over to you, Arbany, is what are other means of documentation are acceptable? Does other methods to verify eligibility indicate this is a local decision? I've answered this in that the U.S. Department of Education does not have an enumerated list at this time. What about incarcerated students? What kind of documentation from the prison would suffice? For incarcerated students, the same types of verification eligibility will apply. This may require some collaboration between the local program and the Division of Adult Corrections Education Coordinator. Arbany, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. And so now I am going to finish up one of the questions regarding compliance with the new guidelines, and then I am going to mostly talk about the funding questions that were sent in. So this question states, when do the new guidelines on U.S. citizenship become effective for Title II programs? And as Michael indicated, in the memorandum sent on Friday, July 25th, and also a follow-up communication that was sent on Monday, July 29th, all providers will need to submit a signed federal assurance form by August 29th, 2025. In the signed federal assurance form, this verifies that you, as the grantee, acknowledges the interpretive notice and confirms the ability for verification of adult education students. Again, should such verification be required in the future through statute or regulations, no student verification records will be collected by the North Carolina Community College system. In the memorandum, there is a list, again, as Michael talked about in earlier questions, which providers can refer to regarding eligibility verification of students enrolled in the adult ed program. Okay, so now we're going to talk just a little bit about funding. So the first question is, are there discussions at the state level regarding the possibility that federal funding will be no longer available for WIOA Title II programs? The proposed 26-27 federal budget calls for the elimination of this federal funding. Will the state continue to support adult education in the absence of federal funding? And then other states have already made public statements regarding their commitment to continuing to provide these services. So We have not received any official communication and or confirmation regarding the continuation or the lack thereof of state support for adult education. However, please know that members of the system office staff, the adult ed staff, Dr. Merritt, our executive team, continue to emphasize the importance of adult education to both the state board members and also through other presentations, as well as relevant entities as requested. So again, we are making sure to demonstrate the impact of adult education across the state of North Carolina. So the next question, how does elimination of federal funds affect the state FTE budget reimbursement? So programs will still receive their state-generated FTE funds. Please remember that these funds are used as matching funds and they are not dependent on the disbursement of federal funds. Also, the adult literacy funding structure in North Carolina is 65% state funds and 35% federal funds.
Arbany, can I chime in real quick?
Absolutely.
I think one thing, just kind of for the both of those questions, just a couple of responses to that. A couple of weeks ago at our state board meeting, many of our state board members engaged in a conversation. Dr. Van Dyke came, kind of talked about the state of, adult literacy funding and where we were, what we heard, what we had heard federally, and just, many of our staff here from CCR came downstairs and attended that meeting. And I think that conversation really, to me, reaffirmed that and validated that our state board and President Cox and really the system as a whole is dedicated to making sure that we continue regardless of federal funding or not. And one of the things I think is really important that that's been reinforced since I've joined the system office a couple of years ago. I think it's, if you look in state law, in general statute, in like that initial statement of purpose in Chapter 115D, it says that the North Carolina Community College System Office is the designated primary lead agency for delivering workforce training, adult literacy training, and adult education programming
Yes.
in North Carolina. So it's in law, guys. So I think that federal funding, I know the anxiety and really kind of understanding, all of us want to understand exactly what's happening federally. Like it's been up in the air lately, and and we still haven't officially received the grant award notification, even though we got the intent to disperse. We're awaiting that. We will make sure you all continue to get communication, but it's stated in North Carolina law. So I think that I can say that, the current answer to that would be that we are dedicated to making sure that, this continues. Will it continue to look like it does today? We're not sure, but I think that's a conversation we're going to have to continue to have, and making sure that we are, looking at ways to sustain, regardless of, federal funds. So sorry for interrupting, Arbany, but
No.
I had to say that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Interrupt as much as you would like. And also, while we have Dr. Merritt on the call, I just want to extend a sincere thank you. I know many of you are usually busy on Friday or maybe not logged into the board meetings, but Dr. Merritt always does a wonderful job of making sure that we have an elevated presence with the state board members. So thank you so much, Dr. Merritt, for all that you do to support us. Okay, so will we receive any federal support this year? So on Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, I got the best news that I could ever receive that, as Dr. Merritt stated, we received an intent to disperse funds from Octave. So as of now, yes, we will receive federal support this year. We are waiting on the grant award notice. As soon as we receive that notice, we will start sending out allocations to the colleges, of course, and CBOs. Of course, it has to go through the state board process. So we'll get the GAN. Once we get the GAN, we'll calculate the figures. We will send it to our finance committee for review, and then we'll send it to the larger state board entity for final review and approval. And then the allocations will be sent out to all of our grantees. And that will include the 231 basic grant to states, as well as a great surprise, the ILCE grant, and then the corrections education grant as well. Okay, the next question. Can we expect to receive funding for all of the FTE we earned in the 24-25 program year? So you should expect to receive all state generated FTE funding earned for program year 24-25, which will include your performance funding. Now, also, we have submitted and the state board has approved carry forward funding for all of the grantees. Now, that will not include any performance funding. That will be just flat funding distributed using the 231 formula. Okay. So the next question is, if we do not receive federal funding, which we will now, will time and effort reporting still be required? So again, because we have received the intent to distribute funds, you will continue to complete your time and effort documentation. And also, if we had not received the notice of intent to disperse because we were allocating the carry forward funds, which are 100% federal funds, you would still have been required to complete time and effort. So the answer to the question is yes, you'll still be required to complete your time and effort documentation. Now, Brandy Brown, our monitoring and reporting specialist, will work with you to retroactively complete time and effort. As you know, we usually don't require documentation from July through September until October 1 of the fiscal year. So Brandy Brown will send out official communication regarding the due date for time and effort. So there was a question, will we receive any additional funds for corrections education this year? Yes, because we received the intent to disperse funds. Remember, the corrections education grant is directly tied to the 231 basic grant that's sent to the states. And we typically allocate about 5.5% of the total 231 basic grant for corrections education funding. So yes, you should expect to receive corrections ed funding this year. So let's see. How do you plan on keeping us updated since things are changing rapidly at the national level? So, again, as we receive information, it is our goal to make sure that we get the information to you in time and on time. So, you will either receive communication from either Dr. Robert Van Dyke or myself. We will send out correspondence in writing. Via email to the CC Basic Skills listserv, as well as the CBO directors. In addition, we will also continue to host these all hands update calls throughout the program year to keep you updated. But again, if it is something immediate, you will always be informed because we will send written communication to you via email. So there was a question, will there be additional grant opportunities this year? So again, the additional funding that you will receive will be through the 231 Basic Grant to States Carry Forward Funding. And again, we're going to use the 231 AFLA allocation to disperse the funds to all of the WIOA grantees. And I am going to turn it over to Dr. Delonda Bond. She is going to address a question regarding instruction if Dr. Bond is available.
I am. Thank you, Albany. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. This question actually has to do with something written in the provider's manual and just getting some clarification with the reinterpretation. The question reads, according to the reinterpretation, Title II programs are post-secondary programs. Title II programs are post-secondary programs, but the provider manual says Title II programs provide services below the post-secondary level. What does this mean for our partnerships with secondary programs? Meaning, will concurrent enrollment be allowed? Title II programs will continue to provide services for adults functioning below the post-secondary level. According to the statute, a Title II student is someone who is not enrolled in nor required to be enrolled in secondary school under state law. Therefore, concurrent enrollment is not permitted between Title II programs and traditional local education agencies or LEAs that provide secondary education. However, concurrent enrollment is appropriate with post-secondary or training partners. All right, Arbany, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so very much, Delonda, for that information. And now we are going to turn our hats just a minute because now we're going to talk just a little bit about performance accountability. So, Jessica, I am going to turn the presentation over to you to talk to the providers about performance.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the question that I had was, advances is still one of our biggest challenges. We've just stopped talking about it. The data is unreliable, frequently wrong, and conflicting when viewed in different places. With the threat of funding loss, where is the system office on finding a reliable data system that does not cost programs more time and human resources to manage? So, the response to that one is that it's important to clarify that Advances is part of the state's ERP system for adult education and was procured through a competitive request for proposals, or an RFP process, in accordance with state procurement laws. The current contract with Advances remains in effect through August 2028. As a state agency, we are required to follow a formal procurement process and cannot unilaterally switch systems based on provider dissatisfaction. The selection of any future data system must go through a new RFP process to ensure fairness, transparency, and compliance. So at this time, there is no indication of a change to the data management system. We will continue to use the Advances platform as the official system of record until further notice. And then kind of carrying off of that one, I had a question that said, we're still submitting help tickets and paying staff to do extra work caused by a problematic system. So the response to that one is that please note that the system office remains available to support you with any issues related to your Advances tickets. We are also available to provide on-site support if needed, and we encourage you to continue documenting and reporting any persistent issues through the submission of ServiceNow or BITS tickets. This feedback is essential and helps inform both our current oversight efforts and future planning. And we do sincerely appreciate your continued partnership and patience as we work to improve the system within the parameters of state policy and procurement procedures. Next question was, will our performance measures be affected if we no longer receive federal funds? So the response there is that we do not have any new information from Octave regarding the performance measures. However, according to the guidance issued by Octave in July of 25, to assess the effectiveness of adult education programs, the office will be reviewing each state's MSG rates and second quarter after exit data. This year, we will place a strong focus on supporting students in relation to second quarter after exit outcomes. But additional information, like I said before, about training and support will be shared soon. Next question I had was, will we continue to assign alternate ID numbers for ESL students who do not have a Social Security number? In order to meet the negotiated state performance indicators and avoid having WIOA funding sanctioned, programs should make every effort to obtain a Social Security or ITIN number on the LEIS form and place into Advances. This will be essential to meeting the post-exit indicators such as second and fourth quarter employment after exit. But again, we're going to have more training on that very soon. So let's see, I've got two more questions. Next one is, I have become increasingly concerned about the safety of our students who are immigrants and refugees. One, when we send our data to the federal government, does it include addresses of students? If not, it would be very reassuring to know that for sure. Two, to what extent is Benchmark protecting the addresses of students? If they've not made an official statement, can we please ask them for clarification? The response to that two-part question is that data is sent from the state of North Carolina as denoted on each of the federal reporting tables, and that's at nrsweb.org, and I'm happy to share that if you don't have it. It's also on our performance section of the System Office CCR website, but I'm happy to show anybody what our actual federal tables that we use to report look like. So that flat file is then matched with the National Student Clearinghouse, Diploma Sender, and the North Carolina Department of Commerce employment records and the System Office registration reports. So for community college Con Ed enrollment and curriculum enrollment. Benchmark undergoes and submits a SOC 2 audit annually to the state. So Benchmark advances for as many headaches as we have, they still have to follow NCDIT and procurement laws of the state of North Carolina. So a SOC 2 audit is designed to assess the security of a company's system and data, ensuring that they are protected against unauthorized access, available when needed, and that the data process is accurate and reliable. So the audit focuses on 5 key areas, and it's often referred to as a trust services criteria. So they have to submit that report, which is done by an independent auditor, to us each year. And then to just kind of circle back and directly respond to, do we, the state of North Carolina, send addresses to the federal government? No, we do not. Does Benchmark? No, they do not. If you look in our federal reporting tables, the reason why an initial placement is so imperative for our participants is because that is how they're actually placed on the tables. We don't put onto our federal tables any names, dates of birth, social security numbers, addresses, anything like that. It is broken across those employment barriers, so no addresses are going anywhere outside of the advances system. And last question, are we required to request documentation from all currently enrolled students? And what if they are unable to produce documentation? What other means of documentation are acceptable? So I'm going to reach out to providers to discuss survey methods for contacting formerly enrolled students in an effort to collect those follow-up outcomes, such as employment, second quarter and fourth quarter after exit, median earnings, for any student that we were unable to data match. And then in order to data match as many students as possible, it is imperative that providers collect and report all Social Security and ITIN numbers in advance as students enroll. And then at this time, providers only need to acknowledge the interpretive rule and attest that they have the ability to conduct an eligibility verification should such verification be required in the future. And I think that is all. I think there's one more for...
All right, thank you so much, Jessica. So there's one more question that we received, and it's about professional development. What does professional development look like this year? So Daniel Loges is going to talk to you more about the professional development opportunities that we have planned for this year. And he's going to start us off by talking about NCCC AEA. But again, regarding these policy questions, Dr. Michael Tilley, he's going to have what we're calling the compliance coffee side chat about the interpretive guidance. More information will be forthcoming about that date and time. And also, if you have additional questions, if you were busy and you couldn't get your question in, again, please feel free to send us an email, and we will be glad to address those questions after the call. All right, next slide, Lee. So I am going to turn it over to Daniel Loges and Lee, our professional development team, to chat with you about what's ahead, meetings, webinars, and fall PD.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I get to talk about the fun stuff after all that heaviness. So Lee, move on to the next slide. We are very sad that we had to cancel Convocation, and I am getting emails every day asking about Convocation if you missed the announcement, we did cancel it a couple weeks ago, actually in the same announcement where we advertised this meeting today. So convocation has been canceled. But we do encourage you all to come to the NCCC conference, the North Carolina Community College Adult Educators Association Conference, which will be at Harrah's Cherokee Resort in Cherokee, September 23rd through 26th. Although convocation was canceled, we are still going to be offering CCR content during every possible session at NCCC. So we will be offering pre-conferences on Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday morning, and we will be offering sessions throughout the day on Wednesday, Thursday, and even Friday morning. So please know that CCR is well represented at NCCC this year, and we encourage you also to submit proposals yourself if you would like to present at the conference, because that technically that proposal link on the website has ended, the date has ended, but we haven't closed it. You can still submit proposals. We would love to get more proposals, and we would love to see you there for the pre-conference. So if you want to come to the pre-conference, please do. You won't be disappointed. We even just today arranged for Arbany and Dr. Van Dyke and Dr. Merritt with some presidents to be doing a panel presentation during one of the general sessions, which you won't want to miss, about the future of adult ed in North Carolina. Next slide, please. We've also scheduled the in-person professional development days that we will offer this year. We decided after last year, where we tried to offer 2 in each region in the fall and in the spring, that was too many. So we're only going to do 1 per region this year. We're going to do the coastal region first on October 10th at Cape Fear in Wilmington. On October 31st, the central region at Davidson-Davie, not far from Charlotte, or between Charlotte and Greensboro. And then in the spring, we're going to do the mountain region at Blue Ridge. And on April 24th, the eastern region at Fayetteville Tech. So you will get an announcement about this very soon, because we will be calling for proposals probably next week for the fall PD days. Once again, even though you might be located in the eastern region, if you would like to go to what's going on in the central region, we don't have any problem with that. You can attend any of them. If you want to come to all of them, we would love to have you. But you would have to deal with that with your supervisor. All right, next slide, please, Lee. We also wanted to mention that we do have a bunch of webinars coming up. I sent out the announcement about the new director's orientation last week. We are working on making them more interactive. We had a great meeting today with the subject matter experts at the system office, and I think you'll find them more exciting and stimulating in this coming year. So we try to make them a little different. There are some of you who attend hundreds of times, maybe not hundreds, but attend a lot that really appreciate our NDOs. We want to keep you coming. I skipped the first one. So we have big news about We Speak. As most of you know, there was an issue with the size of our We Speak course, that the colleges just couldn't allow a 95 gigabyte Moodle course in their, they couldn't afford the storage that it would cost for 95 gigabytes. So I've negotiated a solution, and we will be sharing that. It's a very easy solution. I don't want to give away the big news, but please come to that training that we're going to have in August on the 14th. We haven't sent that out yet, but we will send it out very soon. You will all be thrilled with how you're going to be able to access We Speak in the future. We also have a time and effort webinar, a budget webinar, monitoring webinar. The dates haven't been picked yet, but they're coming up soon. And Lee and I are working on the CoAbe series that we do each year. So we'll be reaching out to the folks who attended CoAbe last year to schedule some times for them to present in webinars on what they learned at CoAbe. Next slide, Lee, please. I think this is my last slide. We did just want to remind you that we have all of our credentialing courses running starting in this month. The first one will be ASE Math, as well as our AI Bootcamp, and we're working on a few new credentialing courses that will be coming soon. But you can register for any of these at our website at nctitle2.org. And Lee has put all of these links in the chat. And I think that was the end of mine, wasn't it? Back to you, Armin.
Thank you. Dr. Merritt has a couple of items that he wants to chime in. I know he's very, very busy, so we want to send him on his way, but I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Merritt for a few more minutes, if that's okay with you.
Thanks, Arbany. As I've been listening and kind of reflecting on what I said earlier, but then seeing some of the questions come in and listening to you all make a great attempt at answering many of these questions. I think it's good for us to, and I know this is being recorded, so I'm just kind of talking off the cuff, but it's good for us to recognize like this is difficult information to deliver. So I appreciate you all making sure that you were this probably sounds a little more scripted or a little more robotic than normal, but I think we're trying to be really careful with our words and making sure that we're monitoring all of the ongoing just noise around us and the conflicting information that we're getting from the federal government and messages or non-return phone calls or non-answered phone calls in some cases. But one of the things that I just wanted to make sure you all heard from me especially is that I saw one of the comments talking about advocacy and efforts happening for especially for our federal funds and WIO Title II funds. And I think one of the things that's really important to remember is like it's really important for you all locally, whether you're a college or whether you're a provider, to tell your own story and making sure that to realize that here at the state level and at the system office, we have a senior team, we have President Cox, but we have a government relations office of just two people, and they Alex, especially, Alex and Deanna mainly focus on our statewide efforts. They do their best to keep up with what's happening federally. And I know that's one of the reasons that when Arbany, you went through that restructure earlier. And for those of you who don't know, Dr. Van Dyke is on vacation, by the way, this week. So, just wanted to make sure we put that out there. He's on the org chart. He's still around. He's doing a great job. But we've restructured this area because we really had a lack of federal advocacy efforts, from my perspective, and coordination with our federal funds and being good, better stewards of our federal funds, and telling the story of that impact at the state level of what we do with these federal funds that blend in with the state funds that you all receive to run title or our CCR programs across our state. But with that, I just wanted to encourage you all to tell your stories locally. I've been at a couple colleges where we made concerted efforts to tell that story, through news releases, through social media posts, through, again, there's a small team here at the system office that really does this advocacy, and it's mostly statewide advocacy. But when you look around the state of North Carolina, we've got 2 U.S. senators, we've got 14 federal U.S. House representatives. There's 50 state senators. There's 120 state representatives. There's lots of people that represent statewide interests, but also federal interests across our state. But there's only a handful of people here in the system office that really can provide that advocacy. And we only do that really to some of the folks that are mainly in power, or mainly many of the policy analysts and the folks that are in our General Assembly. And we do some, we have sent letters to all of the federal Congress, you senators and U.S. House representatives. We've made outreach efforts to make sure that they understand the value of the federal Title II funds. But I'm saying this to you all because your presidents, your senior team, many of you might go to church, you might have your kids might attend the same schools as many of your state senators, your state representatives, your U.S. senators, your folks in your areas. So and many of your presidents know how each of these people that are in elected office and the people that we need to advocate to about these funds and the importance of these funds are in your communities, and each of them really prefer to be reached out to in different ways. Like I've when I was a president, I knew that there was like a few of are representatives that prefer to text message. There was a few that like really just wanted me to call them. There was one that, I knew that, he went to church with someone else. So a lot of times I pass information to that person. So it's a real personal effort. So I think that, that value of the personal, like local story is really important. So I would encourage you all, if you don't feel like you're being heard and if you don't feel like you've been part of this advocacy efforts, I've seen many of the presidents across our state, especially, team up with some of you all do a great job of telling that story and being really focused on their advocacy and in ways that your representatives, whether it's your local statewide representatives or your representatives to the in DC prefer, because really your presidents know, and they know that best, like as they get to know whether they're a new or a seasoned president, they really understand. If they're serving their communities well, they really understand how they prefer that advocacy locally. So just wanted to make sure you all heard that from us. Like we are doing as much as we can to tell this story statewide. But if you all have my phone's always open. I put my cell phone number out there on my email signature. I'm happy to kind of brainstorm with you all about how ways that we can better do that at the state level. But just wanted you all to hear that from me because I think it is going to be important for us as a state and locally to tell the story about the power of the work that you all do every day. So with that, I just wanted to make sure you heard that from me and know that we're going to continue fighting this fight and trying to move the work forward. So thank you, Arbany. I appreciate the opportunity to say a few final words.
Thank you so much, Dr. Merritt, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. I know you're super busy, so thank you for making time in your schedule for us. So I just also want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of the adult ed directors. This, as Dr. Merritt initially stated, this has been a very rocky 3 weeks, uncharted territory. And I just want to say thank you for your commitment to advancing adult ed. Thank you for your daily efforts that we don't always see at the state level, but we know that you are doing to support adult learners in your communities. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I just want to leave us with this tagline that we are stronger together. We're going to hang in there together. If you need any of us at the state level, please do feel free to reach out. We're always a phone call away, an email away. We'll come out to your colleges and or your CBO to talk with you, to brainstorm with you, because we are truly in this together. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.